Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I've been asked to come here today to talk about what we're doing about Father Ray in English. Yes, so for the people at the back. 11 days ago, on the 16th of August, at the very early in the morning, 200 students, former students, teachers, staff, all gathered at the college behind us. At 6 o'clock in the morning, 9 Buddhist monks arrived, and they collected alms and food from the students. It was a way for the students to make merit for Father Ray Brennan. That day was the 19th anniversary of his death. 12 hours later, the same students made their way up to St. Nicholas Catholic Church, a short distance from here, and they attended a Catholic Mass of remembrance. Once the Mass was over, all the students from the college, plus from the School for the Blind, the Father Ray School for Children with Special Needs, and the Father Ray Children's Village, made their way to the cemetery. I watched as blind children led blind children, and I watched the students in wheelchairs struggled over the grass and the gravel. When they arrived in front of Father Ray's grave, they bowed their heads and laid down a single red rose. Father Ray Brennan was born on the 7th of December, 1932. This year will be his 90th birthday. He was born in Chicago, in the United States, into a large Irish-American family. He was one of 3 children, but at times there was cousins, many cousins lived in the house with them. Now, anyone who knows anything about Irish families know that they can be very big. And it was always a tradition that one son would become a priest and one daughter would become a nun. Both Father Ray and his brother Don both became priests. Father Ray ordained as a Redemptorist priest, and shortly after ordination, he climbed aboard a boat and arrived in Thailand as a missionary. He spent 6 months learning the language and then was sent up to northern Thailand to work with the people in the villages. He was there for 10 years. Towards the end of his time there, he was approached by the farmers and the parishioners. There's been a drought for a couple of years. No harvest had been grown. And they asked him to pray. Father Ray, will you pray for rain? But he said that's not what he does. Catholic priests don't do that. But he did it. He prayed for rain, and shortly after he prayed for rain, it rained. There was so much rain. He then came down to Pattaya. In those days, Pattaya was still a small fishing village. But at the same time he arrived here, the Vietnam War was going on in Vietnam. A lot of the US military were based in nearby bases at Sadahib. And he would spend his time between the bases here, his parish here, and the bases, counseling the soldiers who'd been in the war. Father Ray could like to drink and would spend time with the soldiers, and he smoked a lot, yeah, and he got to know them. And the soldiers would come here to Pattaya and attend his mass. They would also come to Pattaya for fun and to relax. And usually when soldiers and local girls get together and have fun, babies are born. One morning, legend has it that Father Ray opened his back door, and on the back doorstep was a newborn baby. He took the baby in, and more babies arrived. So he would pay local families to take care of the babies. But then he had more babies than families. So he opened the Pattaya orphanage, which is a few hundred meters down the road. It's still there. After a few years, a little baby came to him who was deaf, and there was no school for deaf children. So we opened a school for the deaf, Pattaya School for the Deaf. On this site where we are here today, the priests built a monastery, the building over here. And there's also a temple, not a temple, a church, a Catholic church, which is the most beautiful church you'll ever see, Thai style. So you must go and look at it. Also on this complex, we had many refugees from the fighting in Myanmar, Burma, in Cambodia and Vietnam. But he was under a lot of pressure to get rid of them. So, and I think only Father Ray could do this, he changed all the men's names. These little Asian men, he changed their names to Raymond Brennan and got them fake passports and sent them to Canada, Australia, the United States. One day, Father Ray was walking along the beach and he saw a beggar, a young person with a disability, and he didn't want to give them money. So he opened the vocational school for people with disabilities. He said, if you give money to a beggar, they will eat for one day. If you teach them new skills, they will eat forever. So he built the school. He met a friend of his who was blind, so they opened a school for blind children. There was kids runaways and living on the streets, so he opened the home for street kids. Father Ray died 19 years ago on Saturday, the 16th of August. There are times in our lives we go through, we remember days. I can still remember getting that phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning to say Father Ray had died. He died in hospital in Bangkok and was transferred down here. And there was a wake for a few nights with a mass each evening. After the first mass on that first evening finished, all the people were leaving the hall. And as they left, his teenage children came in with their blankets and their pillows and made their beds around Father Ray's coffin, because they didn't want him to be alone. He's buried in St. Nicholas Church just up the road after what was the largest funeral Pattaya has ever seen. People literally flew in from all over the world. There were so many flowers. You know, it was a nice funeral. I think if Father Ray came back today, he would be shocked by what he sees today, in a good way. In a good way. His vocational school he started is now a technological college for people with disabilities. And you can see the students here. I love showing people around. My job is to show people around. And I love taking them to the college to show what we do. I've been here 21 years. And twice a year, I see new students arrive. And I see them scared and nervous about what's going to happen. And many of them have been told, you can't do this, you can't go to school, you can't work because you're disabled. They can here. Many of the students who are here today have such severe disabilities that I doubt they would have been accepted into the school where Father Ray was allowed. We didn't have the facilities, but now we do. Some of these students are so severely disabled that we have assistants to help them get out of bed, help them get showered, help them get washed, and even help to feed. They may have a disabled body, but their mind wants to learn. I see these students arrive, and after a few years, I see them graduate, and they're totally different people. I've seen students come here and go on to win medals at the Paralympics. And it just makes us all very proud of what the school is achieving. At the School for the Blind, I regularly go to local international schools and visit them and do visual awareness training. And then they invite students to our School for the Blind so that they can see that blind children are just like you. They're just blind. I want people to see what we do because I'm very proud of what the schools achieve. A few years ago, we opened the Father Ray School for Children with Special Needs, which apart from, I think, is one of the best schools I've ever visited, is also one of the loudest. Because you see these children with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, learning difficulties, ADHD. Before coming to us, they've had quite sheltered lives. No one really knew what to do with them. And they come to our school and they're learning. And it's just, for me, it's great to take people around and show people and say, this is what we do. And it all started when Father Ray accepted one baby into his care. All the students who are here today, and most of the staff, never met Father Ray, never met him. Most of the children who are in our care were not even born when he died, but they know him. Every person here knows who Father Ray is, every one of them. When they say their prayers before meals, they thank Father Ray. And in future years, they will never forget Pa Ray, as they called him. Yeah, this is his legacy. Thank you very much.